Most people see a crack like this and think it's over. They start pricing up a replacement online, maybe even carry the piece out to the skip. But that crack isn't a death sentence for your furniture. It's a job away from disappearing completely if you know exactly what to do. And by the end of this video, you will. I've been restoring wood for over 20 years, and if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Wood doesn't die from cracking. It dies from being thrown away too soon. A deep crack looks dramatic. It looks like the wood has failed you. But underneath that split, the timber is usually just as strong as the day it was made. It's simply lost its grip on itself, and it needs a bit of help getting that grip back. Today, I'm going to walk you through the entire process of fixing deep cracks in wood properly, the way a restorer does it, not the way a quick internet tutorial tells you to. We'll cover why cracks happen in the first place, how to read what's actually going on inside the timber, and then the full step-by-step repair, from cleaning right through to that final polish that makes a piece look better than it did new. Stick with me, because a lot of the mistakes people make with crack repair happen in the first 60 seconds of the job, and I don't want that to be you. Let's start with the problem itself, because you can't fix something properly if you don't understand why it happened. Wood is not a dead material. Even after it's been cut, dried, and turned into a chair leg or a tabletop, it's still moving. It expands when it absorbs moisture from the air, and it shrinks when the air dries out. In the UK, that means your furniture is constantly reacting to the seasons, swelling a little in a damp summer, shrinking a little when the central heating kicks on in winter. That constant expansion and contraction puts stress on the wood fibers. Most of the time, the wood handles it fine, but wood doesn't shrink and swell evenly in every direction. It moves far more across the grain than along it. Over years, sometimes decades, that uneven movement builds up internal tension. Eventually, something has to give and the wood splits along its weakest point, usually along the grain, where the fibers were already naturally inclined to separate. There are other causes too. A knock or an impact can crack wood instantly, especially in older, drier timber that's lost some of its natural flexibility. Furniture stored too close to a radiator or in direct sunlight will dry out unevenly and crack from the stress. And structural cracks often appear at joints, table legs, chair rails, drawer fronts, where two pieces of wood were joined at right angles to the grain, creating a natural point of weakness that was always going to move differently to the wood around it. Here's the thing most people get wrong. They assume a crack means the wood is rotten, weak, or beyond saving. In the vast majority of cases, that's simply not true. A crack is a separation, not a disintegration. Oh, the fibers are still there. They've just parted ways, and our job is to bring them back together and give them a bond that's stronger than the one nature gave them originally. So if cracks are so fixable, why do so many people head straight to the shops instead? Honestly, it comes down to fear and misinformation. Cracked wood looks worse than it is. A hairline split across an antique tabletop can look catastrophic, especially if it's caught the light and darkened with years of dust and old polish sitting inside it. People assume that because the damage looks severe, the repair must be complicated, expensive, or require specialist tools they don't own. There's also a modern habit of treating furniture as disposable. Flat pack culture has trained a lot of us to think that when something breaks, you simply buy another one. But that mindset doesn't hold up when you're talking about solid timber furniture, a piece that might have taken a skilled carpenter days to build, using wood that in some cases can no longer even be sourced in the same quality. Replacing a genuinely good piece of furniture because of a crack is often throwing away decades, sometimes a century, of character for the sake of a repair that costs a few pounds in an afternoon of your time. And that's really the heart of why restoration is the better option. When you repair a crack properly, you're not just saving money, although you absolutely are, sometimes hundreds of pounds compared to a like-for-like replacement. You're preserving the grain patterns, the patina, the small dents and marks that tell you this piece has lived a life. You cannot buy that back. Once it's gone to landfill, it's gone. But if you can get 20 minutes with some wood glue, a clamp, and a bit of patience, that piece can outlive you. Before you touch a single tool, you need to understand exactly what you're dealing with. Not every crack is the same, and treating them all identically is one of the most common mistakes I see. Surface hairline cracks are the most common and the least serious. These sit in the finish or the very top layer of the wood and don't run deep into the timber. Run your fingernail across the crack. If it barely catches, you're likely looking at a finish-level crack rather than a structural one. Deep structural cracks run through the thickness of the wood itself. You'll usually see this on tabletops, chair seats, or thick panels where the split has opened up enough that you can see daylight through it, or where you can gently flex either side of the crack and feel independent movement. This is the crack we're focusing on today, because it's the one people panic about most. Cracks at joints are a different category entirely. If the crack is running along a joint, where a leg meets a rail, or a drawer front meets its sides, that's often less about the wood cracking and more about the joint failing or the glue letting go. We'll touch on this, but the primary fix there is re-gluing the joint rather than filling a crack. Loose joints show up as wobble or movement when you apply pressure. A chair that rocks slightly, a table leg that shifts. Give every joint on the piece a firm push and a twist. Anything that moves more than it should needs attention alongside your crack repair. Missing wood happens when a chip or a chunk has broken away entirely rather than just splitting. You'll need to decide whether to fill that gap or replace the missing section with new timber, depending on its size. Water damage shows up as darkened, swollen, or soft patches around the crack. Press your thumbnail into the timber near the damage. If it leaves an indent or feels spongy, there's moisture damage that needs drying out and possibly hardening before you attempt any crack repair. Otherwise, your glue simply won't bond properly. Rot is the one genuine deal breaker, though it's rarer than people think. Real rot feels crumbly, almost like dry biscuit, and often has a musty smell. If you press a screwdriver into the wood and it sinks in with little resistance across a wide area, you may be dealing with rot rather than a simple crack. And that requires a different approach, often cutting out and replacing the affected section entirely. Paint or finish damage around the crack, flaking, discoloration, or a cloudy white bloom tells you the old finish has failed and will need to be removed before you can repair and refinish the timber underneath. Scratches and surface marks near the crack aren't structural, but they're worth noting now because you'll want to address them at the same time you refinish, so the whole surface looks consistent when you're done. Take your time on this inspection stage. A good 5 minutes here, properly assessing what you're working with, will save you from redoing a repair later because you missed something underneath the obvious crack. Before we get into the process, let's talk about what you actually need. You don't need a workshop full of expensive kit for this. Most of what follows can be picked up from a hardware shop for well under 20 pounds. For cleaning and preparation, you'll want a soft brush or a vacuum with a brush attachment, some white spirit or mineral spirit, and clean lint-free cloths. For removing old finish where needed, fine-grade sandpaper. We'll get into grits shortly, and possibly a chemical stripper if the finish is particularly stubborn. For the crack repair itself, your main choices are wood glue or epoxy resin, depending on the size and depth of the crack, which we'll cover in detail. You'll also want wood filler or epoxy putty for any gaps that won't close fully, a set of clamps, even basic G clamps or ratchet clamps will do, and wooden cawls, which are just flat offcuts of scrap wood placed between your clamp and the furniture to spread pressure evenly and protect the surface. For finishing, you'll need progressively finer grits of sandpaper, wood stain if you want to match color, and a sealer, or finish such as wax, oil, or varnish depending on the piece. Safety-wise, keep a dust mask handy for sanding, especially on older painted furniture where you don't always know what's in the finish, and wear gloves when working with epoxy, as it can irritate skin with repeated contact. Right, let's get into the actual repair. I'm going to take you through this in the order I do it on a real piece, so you can follow along exactly. Every restoration starts with cleaning, and it's a step people love to rush past. Don't. Dust, old polish, and grime sitting in and around a crack will stop your glue or filler from bonding properly, and a poor bond today means the crack reopens in a year. Start by brushing away loose debris from the surface and, as best you can, from inside the crack itself. Then wipe the area down with a cloth dampened with white spirit. This lifts old wax and polish without soaking into the timber the way water would. Let it dry fully before moving on. You want bone-dry wood before any glue goes near it. If the area around the crack has varnish, lacquer, or paint, you'll usually need to strip that back before repairing, particularly if the crack runs close to the edge of the finish, or if you're planning to refinish the whole piece afterwards for a seamless look. For light finishes, sanding alone with a medium grit will do the job. For thicker, older finishes, a chemical stripper applied according to the product's instructions will lift it faster and with less physical strain on the wood. Always work in a well-ventilated space when using stripper and give the wood time to fully dry out afterwards, since strippers often leave moisture behind. Once the finish is off and the crack is exposed and clean, a light sand around the damaged area helps the wood accept glue and filler far better than an untouched surface would. Start with a medium grit, around 120, to knock back any roughness, then move to a finer grit, around 220, to smooth things out. We're not trying to remove wood here, just prepare the surface. Light, even strokes, always following the direction of the grain. For thinner cracks, anything you could slide a piece of paper into but not much more, wood glue is your best option. PVA wood glue, or a specialist wood glue with slightly more flexibility, works well because it's designed to bond wood fibers directly and dries with a slight give that moves with the timber over time. To apply it, use a thin, flexible applicator, an old palette knife, or even a flattened lolly stick works nicely, to work glue into the crack. You want to get it as deep into the split as possible, not just sitting on the surface. Gently flexing the wood open a fraction as you apply the glue, if the crack allows it, helps the glue reach further in. Once it's in, close the crack and wipe away any glue that squeezes out immediately with a damp cloth before it dries and hardens on the surface. Then clamp it. This is the step people skip, and it's the single biggest reason crack repairs fail. Wood glue needs pressure to cure into a strong bond. Without it, you've essentially just glued a crack shut with no real strength behind it. Use a caul on either side of the clamp to spread the pressure and protect the surface, then clamp firmly but not so tight that you're squeezing all the glue back out. Leave it for the full curing time stated on your glue, usually somewhere between 1 and 24 hours, so always check the tin rather than guessing. For deeper, wider cracks, the kind where the gap is visible and won't fully close under clamping pressure, epoxy resin is the better choice. This is where a lot of people get confused about when to use glue and when to reach for epoxy, so let's be clear on it. Wood glue bonds fiber to fiber and needs the crack to close almost completely. Epoxy fills space as well as bonds, which makes it the right tool when you're dealing with a gap rather than a hairline split. Mix your epoxy according to the manufacturer's instructions. Getting the ratio right matters more than people expect, as an incorrect mix won't cure properly. For a natural look, you can tint clear epoxy with wood dye to roughly match your timber, or for character pieces, some restorers deliberately use a contrasting color, sometimes even metallic gold, to celebrate the repair rather than hide it. That's a stylistic choice entirely, up to you and the piece. Apply the epoxy into the crack with a flexible spreader, slightly overfilling since epoxy shrinks a touch as it cures and sands back easily once hard. Tape off the surrounding area if you're worried about spreading, and let it cure fully, often 24 hours for a full structural cure, even if it feels solid to the touch sooner. Even after gluing or epoxying, you may have small surface level gaps or slight depressions once everything has cured. Wood filler is perfect for this final cosmetic layer. Choose a filler that's stainable if you plan to match the surrounding wood color. Apply it slightly proud of the surface with a flexible knife, and let it dry fully before sanding it back flush. While you've got glue and clamps out, this is the ideal time to address any loose joints you found during inspection. Work a small amount of wood glue into the joint, work the joint gently to spread the glue across the full contact area, then clamp and let it cure alongside your crack repair. Trying to do this later, after everything else is finished, just means setting up your clamps twice. If your inspection turned up a section of genuinely missing or rotten wood, rather than just a crack, you have two options. For small areas, a 2-part wood filler or epoxy putty built up in layers can rebuild the missing shape convincingly. For larger sections, cutting out the damaged timber and splicing in a new piece of matching wood is the proper long-term fix. This is a bigger job, and if you're new to restoration, it's worth practicing on a less precious piece first before attempting it on something irreplaceable. Once every glue, epoxy, and filler application is fully cured, it's time to sand the whole repaired area back to a smooth, even surface. Start with a medium grit, around 150, to level everything off, then work progressively finer. 220, then 320 if you want an especially smooth finish before staining. Always sand with the grain, never against it, and check your work regularly by running a hand across the surface with your eyes closed. Your fingers will find high spots your eyes miss. If your repair has left any color variation, which is common since new glue, filler, or epoxy rarely matches aged timber perfectly straight away, a wood stain can bring everything back into harmony. Test your stain on an offcut or a hidden area first, since wood absorbs stain differently depending on species, age, and how much finish is previously soaked into it. Apply with a cloth or brush, working with the grain, and wipe back any excess before it dries for an even tone. Once your stain is fully dried, seal the repaired area to protect it and match the sheen of the rest of the piece. Your options here are wax, for a traditional low-sheen antique look, oil, which soaks in and enhances the grain while remaining easy to maintain, or varnish or lacquer, which sits on the surface and offers the most durable protective finish for pieces that see heavy daily use.